It's question number 6 on the Unit 2 review. It says identify the following in the above graph: the y-intercept, the x-intercept, and the slope of a linear equation. Alright, so the first thing we need to kind of watch out for is, the x-intercept is where your line crosses the x-axis. So like here's the x-axis. It's right there. That's the x-intercept. And so what we need to do is we need to check to see where that crosses at. And since we have we can enlarge this a little bit, but it looks like it's crossing right there, and that's between 1 and 2. So it looks like my x-intercept is at 1.5. So we can say 1.5, 0. Remember, the x-intercept is when y is 0. And the y at 0 is right here. So you can see that at x, that is where it's crossing right there. Alright, so the next one is the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is where our line's crossing, and it's right here as well. And so if you look at this one, you got to be careful because it looks like there's a line and then there's 1, and then there's a line and then there's 2, then there's a line and then there's 3. So you got to be careful here because you can make a mistake where you see 2 lines and you think it's 2, but it's really 1. So right here, this dot is on y equals 1. That's 1. Alright, so my y-intercept is going to be 0 because that's the y-intercept is when x is 0, remember, and then the next one is the y. Don't forget, order pairs are done x and y, and so like when you have a x-intercept, your y is 0. When you have a y-intercept, your x is 0. It's the opposite. It's always whatever you're looking for, the other one is 0. Alright, so there's our 2 intercepts. Alright, so now let's talk about the slope. How do we find the slope? Okay, the slope is rise over run. We also call it the change in y over the change in x. You may remember it as y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Since we have our x-intercept and our x and y-intercepts here, we can easily do rise over run. Alright, so I'm going to do rise over run. Alright, so if you remember, my x value is 1.5. Alright, and then my y value is 1. So when we talk about slope, the y is on top and the x on the bottom. Think about rise means go up and down. That's the y-axis. X is going across. That's the x-axis. All right, so here we go. The y value should be, and you can see right here, it's 1. The x value, which we said was 1.5. Now, if we take our calculator and we divide 1 by 1.5, we'll find out that we have a decimal. Now there is another way. You can see how this has a decimal here. We can multiply this by 10 and multiply the top by 10. And when we do this, we get 10 over 15. And if we reduce that,